It's Friday, January 30th, 2026, and we got a lot to cover for you guys in today's update. President Trump announcing his new Fed chair pick, Kevin Worsh, who is not a fan of quantitative easing, is a fan of bringing down interest rates, and is a big fan of distributed ledger technology. With comments on Bitcoin and crypto as a whole, we're going to play those for you guys in today's update, but we got to tie in the full update as we always do, current events, financial markets, and how to take advantage of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. Let's take it to the Iran situation first. President Trump in a press conference today saying that Iran wants to make a deal. So he comments that yes, we are sending heavy military equipment into the region and we are prepared to strike, but he is noting that there is still a chance of a deal being signed. So we'll continue to pray for peace. That situation's still a hot one. No prayers are going to stop our government from shutting down tonight, though. We have a partial government shutdown that is basically guaranteed at this point because despite the fact that Trump has done a deal with the Democrats and Chuck Schumer, the House is not in session. Don't you just love it? We show up to work every single day. I work every day, 7 days a week. My wife has to drag me out of the office to get me to stop working, and yet we got these politicians in D.C. Where the heck are they at? Nobody even knows. These guys never even work. But here's the key details on the situation, folk. So what we have is significant portions of the federal agencies, including DHS, DOD, Labor, HHS, Education, Transportation, HUD, Financial Services, and State Foreign Operations, are set to expire tonight. These agencies have been operating under a continuing resolution since late last year. Some parts of the government, including agriculture, veteran affairs, military construction, and the legislative branch already received a full year funding earlier, so they would not be affected. So that's great. We're still paying for the legislative branch. They're just not showing up. Fantastic news, right? Bipartisan deal was reached last night between President Trump and Senate Democrats led by Chucky Schumer. And this would pass 5 of the spending bills to fund most non-DHS agencies through September 2026, with separate funding for DHS at current levels for just 2 weeks to allow for ongoing negotiations over reforms, guardrails, etc. But the problem here, the Senate was expected to vote on this package today with the chamber convening at 11 a.m. However, the vote stalled Thursday night due to objections from some senators blocking quick consideration. Even if the Senate does pass it today, the House is not in session this week and isn't scheduled to return until Monday. This means the bill couldn't reach President Trump's desk for signature before the midnight deadline. So we're getting a partial shutdown tonight. It's guaranteed at this point. Even if Senate passes the deal, House is not in session, we're shutting it down. Partial shutdown, big nothing burger. Big nothing burger. The media is going to drum this up. At the worst, I'm expecting a slight pullback in the markets based off this. But basically, the whole big threat of a government shutdown wasn't too big of one. As we look into the details here, it was a partial shutdown this whole time, and it looks like the Senate Democrats, Chucky Schumer leading the way, are going to get a deal done with President Trump, and the partial shutdown won't end very long. So probably a big nothing burger, might result in a small pullback. Now, the markets are digesting this morning the inflation report that comes out here. Producer price index inflation comes in hot at 3% above expectations of 2.7%, with core PPI coming into 3.3% above expectations of 2.9. Core PPI inflation is now at its highest level since July of 2025. PPI inflation is running hotter than expected. So this tells me that we're not going to get more rate cuts from the Fed between now and May. So the market's going to have to digest and come to terms with the fact that rates aren't coming down between now and May. It's not going to happen. Not with this inflation still running hot. We heard the press conference from Jerome Powell. They're not showing any signs of really any willingness to bring down rates. And this data is just going to feed into that narrative. Now, the incoming Fed chair pick, Kevin Worsh, this was announced this morning, not a fan of quantitative easing. So that's another thing that the markets are having to digest right now. He spoke out against the second round of QE that took place after the great financial crisis. He's been speaking out against the QE that's been taking place in the current times. So he's not a fan of making that money printer go burr. But he is And he has been talking about bringing down rates. And even in the press conference this morning, President Trump says that he's going to be bringing down rates despite what the White House wants. So despite people trying to say that the White House is going to influence the Fed, which they will, let's not kid ourselves. But if you just listen to what Worsh has been standing for, if you listen to what the other Fed governors around him have been standing for, it is bringing down rates. Okay, even Governor Moran making comments this morning as well. But what I want to show you guys here is that despite the pullbacks that we'll probably see in the markets between now and May, right? Because folks are going to have to price in no immediate rate cuts coming in. Even with the new Fed chair pick, he's not a fan of QE. So our stock market probably is going to be correcting, right? Our gold and silver did correct this morning. We believe that that's a short-term pullback in the middle of a continuation of the bull run. Crypto is in this weird spot right now where conditions are so tight, right? Where our business cycles in contraction. And so crypto didn't get the bull run that we were expecting in 2025. And we've seen a continuation of the sell-off into the beginning of 2026. I do expect this to continue. And I'm going to show you the XRP levels that I'm watching at the end of today's update. But I'm going to play some clips right here showing you that Kevin Worsh is a big proponent of digital assets. Let's run the clips right here. Kevin Worsh, new Fed chair pick. He'll be in May.
So Stan calls me his partner. I call him my boss. One of us is lying, but I'll let you figure out who's who in that, Andrew. So I'd say I think that Bitcoin does make sense as part of a portfolio in this environment where you have the most fundamental shift, for example, in monetary policy since Paul Volcker. This is a big shift that we're seeing under the Powell Fed, rightly or wrongly. So I'm not surprised in a period of dollar weakness where Bitcoin's doing what it's doing. And I'd also suggest that part of the move in Bitcoin is taking some of the bid away from gold. I think if Bitcoin never existed, gold would be rallying even more right now. But I guess if you're under 40, Bitcoin is your new gold.
And it's funny because now we have seen that gold did decouple and left Bitcoin behind, and it did run. So gold eventually did break away, but this was an older clip when Bitcoin was trading at like 38,000, I think you saw on the screen. Here's another clip. Let's let it run.
You made reference to Bitcoin, and I thought I heard a little bit of condescension that people are buying Bitcoin and these things.
But doesn't it, Charlie Munger, this is 2 or 3 years before he died, Charlie Munger attacked Bitcoin. He called it evil, in part because it would begin to undermine the Fed's ability to manage the economy.
Or it could provide market discipline, or it could tell the world that things need to be fixed.
And this is why I was a Bitcoiner back in 2017, 2018 when I started investing in the space. We agree in principle on a lot with the Bitcoiners, right? But is Bitcoin the end all be all? The Bitcoin maxis are already running and playing these clips and trying to say that Worsh is a big Bitcoiner. I'm going to let the rest of the clip run, and you're going to see that he's a fan of the broader space and technology as a whole. And I think just like many of us, he's a proponent of sound money.
Bitcoin does not make you nervous.
Bitcoin does not make me nervous. I can hearken back to a dinner I had here in 2011 with someone who is another guest on your show. I won't say his name. Okay, I just did Mark Andreessen, who showed me the white paper. That was the original white paper. I wish I had understood as clearly as he did how transformative Bitcoin and this new technology would be. Bitcoin doesn't trouble me. I think of it as an important asset that can help inform policymakers when they're doing things right and wrong.
See, and just the fact that he's speaking to, whether it be Bitcoin or gold, bringing accountability to policymakers, that's the type of rhetoric that we want to see from a Fed chairman. So it's not the status quo of no accountability, too late, pal. You saw the pathetic press conference that he did a couple days ago, right? Kevin Worsh is coming in and saying we need discipline, we need accountability, and Bitcoin could be a tool to bring that.
It is not a substitute to the dollar. I think it can often be a very good policeman for policy. And if I were to speak more broadly to what did Charlie Munger and others perhaps have in mind, there is a proliferation of securities that go under all sorts of names. Many, if not most of them, are not worth what they might be being traded for. So what did Charlie say, and maybe his pal Warren say? There's the innovators, the imitators, and the incompetents. They're real innovators that are happening in and around that new technology. And what I would try to impart towards businesses and bankers is that the underlying technology that Mark showed me in that white paper, or tried to show me in that white paper, it's just software. It's just the newest, coolest software that will provide us an ability to do things that we could never have done before. Can the software be used for good and evil? Yes, both, like all software. Right. So I don't cast aspersions like that. If there's a final point, it's these technologies are being built here. I don't just mean on Stanford campus. I believe in the United States. And the world's most talented engineers from China and Europe and everywhere, they come to the United States even now to try to build this stuff. And my view is by building it here, that gives us an opportunity to be more productive and create something very special over the next decade.
Absolutely love to hear it. Now, as you heard his statements, it's not just Bitcoin, it's the broader space, this technology, and that's what we love to hear, right? And we want it in America, right? So it aligns with the pro-crypto President Trump, let's make America the crypto capital of the world. Now, why would the markets not be pumping on this news, though? It goes back to the fact that he spoke out against quantitative easing. And with inflation coming in hot this morning, the market's also digesting that the current Fed Chair Powell and the FOMC, they are not going to be bringing down rates between now and May. So they're not bringing down rates between now and May, and we're not going to get QE when Worsh does come in. So what does this set up for in 2026? Bull Theory explains right here. This is a nice post. Yesterday's sell-off began when the probability of Kevin Worsh becoming the next Fed chair surged sharply. This reaction was due to Kevin Worsh's policy record. He served on the Federal Reserve Board from 2006 to 2011 and played a role during the 2008 crisis. Since leaving the Fed, he has been one of the most vocal critics of how monetary policy was handled after that period. He has repeatedly argued that QE inflated asset prices, increased inequality, and mainly benefited financial markets rather than the real economy. Spot on. He has described QE as reverse Robin Hood policy. He has also said that post-2020 inflation surge was a policy mistake, not an unavoidable outcome. See, he wants to bring some accountability to the Fed and policymakers. That tells markets that he is less tolerant of prolonged ultra-easy policy. While Worsh now supports cutting interest rates, his framework is different from what markets are used to. He is opposed for rate cuts combined with balance sheet reduction, not open-ended liquidity. This is a big issue because we've been, pricing in and expecting, right, the Fed to return back to money printer go burr. Markets are pricing the risk that rates may come down, but liquidity may not expand the way it has in previous cycles. That combination is not friendly for highly leveraged trades, stretched equity valuations, or liquidity-driven rallies. In simple terms, Trump wants lower rates, Worsh wants tighter balance sheet discipline, markets fear rate cuts without QE. The era of QE is no longer guaranteed, and markets are finally starting to price that reality in, which is fine. It's healthy. It's actually good. See, do we want to keep on going through these cyclical bubbles, right? These 4-year cycle bubbles, rampant speculation, money printer goes burr, stimmy checks go out to everybody. Nobody even knows where to throw the money, so we throw it at crap coins and meme coins and silly stuff. Or do we want to return to Main Street, to utility, to real valuations? I do. If it means that my bag of Dogecoin doesn't return and I lose on Dogecoin, that's the discipline that I need, right? Just like the same discipline that the Federal Reserve and the policymakers need, us investing in crap coins might need a little bit of discipline and accountability in our lives too. And our space needs to mature. And guess what this means? It bodes so well for the utility digital assets like XRP that we've been investing in. It's not going to be dumb money flying around into Pepe, crap, Shib, fuzzy, wuzzy penguins. It's going to be flying into utility. And that's what we position ourselves for perfectly. Okay? So, just final point here. The branding of Kevin as someone who's always hawkish is not correct. I'm really excited about the partnership between him and Bessent. Having an accord between the Treasury Secretary and Fed Chair is ideal. This is Stanley Druckenmiller on Kevin Worsh as the pick. Okay, so in a nutshell, right? Short-term volatility, the market having to reprice things here, but long-term, a return to utility, a return to Main Street thriving and having an economy that's not just top-down, not this K-shaped economy where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer and middle-class business gets squeezed out. Treasury Secretary Bessent, he's highlighted how he wants to save that Wall Street's had a party. It's time for Main Street to be able to have a good time, right? Kevin Worsh perfectly aligns with that policy as well. And now XRP Utility is getting ready for this moment. Token escrow amendment is now in the majority, estimated activation February 12th. This allows our token issuers or other holders of tokens, right, to escrow tokens outside of XRP. It's a small amendment on the XRP ledger, but it actually brings a big amount of utility and flexibility to token issuers that adds significant utility. This might be one of the biggest amendments that we've had in the past couple years, though. This is Ashish Birla, CEO at Evernorth, the largest XRP digital asset treasury. I'm excited about XLS 66. It paves the way for institutional DeFi in the form of vaults that have an improved user experience. Evernorth is exploring how XLS 66 could support yield generation as part of our broader treasury strategy while contributing to the growth of the XRP DeFi ecosystem. This is the lending protocol, on-chain lending on the XRP ledger, so you have the ability to provide liquidity to liquidity pools. That's different from being able to lend out your XRP or other assets using this lending protocol. This is on the way. Evernorth is going to be spearheading not just the testing, but the development of this amendment, building out products around it, and our broader ecosystem as a whole. That's why I love the Evernorth play. Now, speaking of Ripple, we have a new partnership. Ripple Payments is now live with Caleb and Brown. That's right, folks. This is Jake Boyle, who is actually my personal broker at Caleb and Brown. He announced this last night. Ripple Payments is live with Caleb and Brown. To enhance customer experience, we have integrated Ripple to streamline USD bank transfers. Expect far quicker turnaround on fiat withdrawals as we move forward. Some utility for the XRP community. I retweeted, I said, no withdrawal limits or fees, and they were already settling for me in less than 24 hours every single time. Now they just got faster as they tap into Ripple Payments. Absolutely love to see it. So this is why I love Caleb and Brown. You get a personal broker. I woke up the other day to getting an email that my order had been filled while I was sleeping. They bought the dip for me, and no spread on that trade, by the way, either. Just filling it up right where they said. I exchanged dollars. They give me the coins. No spread, no slippage, filling it up while I'm sleeping. But when it comes to cashing out with Caleb and Brown, they already had no withdrawal limits, no withdrawal fees. So if you need to cash out a big bag, you're not going to be limited to $10,000, $25,000 per day, right? And you're not going to be hit with a withdrawal fee. And the withdrawal process had already been settling up for me in less than 24 hours every single time. And now they're telling us that it's going to get even faster as they tap into Ripple Payments. And I think it's a testament to Caleb and Brown as a company as well. The fact that Ripple is partnered up with them. They're now tapped in with Ripple Payments. And I'm actually expecting there to be more to come from this partnership in the form of lending against our XRP and ways to generate yield on RLUSD and XRP as well. So when considering platforms, it's nice to be working with a platform that's partnered up with Ripple. We absolutely love to see it. So you'll find my link down below for Caleb and Brown. You can sign up with them for free, get your personal broker, and take advantage of their free institutional grade custody as well. Final update, XRP price, not really doing much after yesterday's pullback to $1.71. I'm looking for this correction to complete at about the $1.65 level. So just a little bit of a chop, not much movement here today. But we'll see. Government shutdown, Iran strikes, something like that could be the final catalyst to pull us back down to that $1.65 level. I think that would be the completion of this correction. And, barring anything else, black swan wise, I think that our markets have a little bit of repricing to do, a little bit of a correction to finish up, but a strong finish into the rest of 2026 by summertime. We should be off to the races. So that's how I'm positioning myself. And I'm just taking this opportunity to buy more of these assets. So if you appreciate what we're doing, everything's at my website, zachrector.com. And on the way out, if you could like this video, Help us out. Greatly appreciate you. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.